Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. As Ambazonians rise each day with renewed hope for dignity, justice, and sovereignty, the bitter realities on the ground continue to expose a painful truth that the colonial regime governing from Yaoundé has no genuine interest in the well-being or development of Ambazonia. For decades of marginalization to the hollow promises wrapped in high-profile inaugurations and media spectacles, the pattern is clear. Exploitation, not progress, remains the true agenda. Wonder how long will Ambazonians be expected to celebrate illusions of development while the people of La République, continue to fool them and Ambazonians reap no fruit? For how long must Ambazonia's natural wealth, ports, and lands serve the machinery of another nation's greed, while Ambazonia suffers poverty, delay, and neglect? Well, the struggle for Ambazonian sovereignty was never born out of fantasy, but from a relentless history of betrayal, deception, and systemic underdevelopment. Every failed promise, every postponed project, every inflated price tag that crushes the common man, all serves as living proof that Ambazonia's liberation is not just a political aspiration. It is a matter of survival. Today we bring you another glimpse into the contradictions of a colonial system that pretends to invest while carefully tightening the screws of dependence. Well, stay with us. And these are the prime headlines on Undaunted. Tonight, we see Ambazonian war putting public health at risk amidst colonial government neglect. Bamenda Gas Plant fails to deliver. A 12-kilogram cylinder of domestic gas remains expensive, selling at 8,500 francs CFA. The marginalization concerns Escalate as Victoria Deep Sea Port commissioning is postponed. La République Diaspora protest in Brussels amidst La République elections chaos. And then on the African scene, we see Chadian civil servants burnt alive after Facebook warning endanger friends. News across the globe, we see Russia ending missile deployment moratorium, blames NATO for escalation. Let's get the news in its full details. Well, growing reports in several parts of Ambazonia that butchers are using chemicals to keep meat looking fresh and to deter flies have gotten the population gripped with fear. This misconduct, being a symptom of a larger public health crisis, are a part of the several consequences of the ongoing war declared on southern Cameroons by La République. This has led to a collapse in regulatory oversight and forced desperate butchers to adopt dangerous practices, putting the public's health at risk. Now, while the exact substance being used to falsify freshness remains unconfirmed, the reported use of chemicals like formalin has raised alarm amongst health experts. Formalin, which is not meant for human consumption, is known to cause severe stomach and respiratory problems and has been linked to cancer. Now, the fact that this practice is reportedly on the rise is a direct result of the colonial government's prolonged neglect and the devastating impact of the over 8 years long war on Ambazonians' local economy. The war has disrupted supply chains, led to the destruction of livelihoods, and created an environment where small businesses like butcheries are fighting for survival. Now, in a desperate bid to preserve their limited stock in a collapsed market, some of these butchers are reportedly resorting to these dangerous methods, ignorant of the consequences these have on human life. While our République's failure to provide a secure environment and stable economic conditions is the root cause of this desperation that is quite unsafe for humans. While the colonial government claims the war has made it impossible for regulatory bodies like its so-called Ministry of Livestock, Fisheries and Animals Industry, the MINEPIA, to operate effectively, innocent citizens are left to fend for themselves. In the face of this systemic failure, the public is being forced to take matters into their own hands. The Ambazonian population is advised to buy meat from clean, reputable butcheries and to look out for official inspection stamps. Thoroughly cooking meat is also a recommended safety measure. Meanwhile, citizens are being urged to report any suspicious practices, not just to protect their own families, but to expose the public health crisis that has been a direct consequence of the colonial government's actions and neglect. Well, we have in the studios with us Barrister Mbeseha. Good evening, Barrister Mbeseha.
Good evening to you.
Welcome. Well, we see this report talking about Ambazonians' health being at risk, and in as much as the ultimate goal is not even for La République's Ministry of Health or Ministry of Fishery and Livestock to get involved with Ambazonians' business, the ultimate goal is for Ambazonians to regain their own sovereignty so they could have all the necessary things put in place. Right now, this is what is happening, and we know the future goal, the plan Ambazonia has for both its safety and every other ministry, every other part of Ambazonia's structure. So would like to get your thoughts on this. In the meantime, what can Ambazonians do?
Well, starting with what they can do, the only thing they can do is to be careful to preserve themselves, not just in buying this meat. Because what is going on with the meat preservation is significant, indicative of a total failure of the health system. The health system has collapsed, literally collapsed in Ambazonia, if not in the whole country. Because, there's not so much you can do as an individual rather than taking personal care. Again, we've seen people, I said the health system has collapsed everywhere. You've seen even from drinking water, what they drink and call water there. Might be purified, but it's not treated. That's why if you see water coming out having yellow colors, people drink it. You see, meat sellers, be it cows, be it pigs, be it any other livestock that they kill, the animals themselves have to be healthy because the animals may be carrying diseases. If you remember, pork comes from pig. A lot of pork carries with it tapeworms. Tapeworms themselves are very, very dangerous. You buy it, you eat it, you get tapeworm. You are infected, you die. And so, in the markets, what has become of the sanitation department is zero. In the old Ambazonia, the meat didn't go out of the butchery to the market without inspection. Do they still have those inspectors there? They have some, just by name. Just like any other thing Cameroonian, they get somebody to sit there and say it's inspecting meat. We sole business is going to farm out of it, get money from it. And so Ambazonians can only do so much. Again, as I've said, the animals that they kill and sell have to be healthy. Other things call cows there, are they even healthy cows? Is there anybody who's inspecting them to be sure they're healthy for human consumption? Nobody's doing it. Is there anybody inspecting the goats and the pigs that they sell in the market to be sure they are good? No. It's a system that has collapsed completely, and everybody for himself and God for us all. Because again, there's everything that is making life so difficult. We have seen fires spread out over the country. And then you will say, well, this fire was started by somebody who was trading in gas, trading petrol. By the roadside, where is it coming from? What's the quality of that thing? Where is it coming from? Is it illegal? Of course. But it has been legalized. Everybody can sell it in his or her house. Where it is coming from, nobody knows. But the bulk of it might come from Sonora, stolen from there. A good chunk of it comes all the way from Nigeria. They drive their way through the roads. One can will destroy the whole family, burn the whole house. And so it's a very big problem, especially for Ambazonians. Again, at this rate, Ambazonia will not survive in the next century. And so what can we do? We can only fight to get out of it. The health system has failed. The whole system by itself has collapsed, not just the health. Everything ticked up there, from taxation to health to everything. We have heard about all this, we've heard and seen all these farmer grazier issues. People are fighting. Fulanis are fighting the Boro over grazing land. Over a system that has failed. You and also live in the abroad. We live in abroad. There are more cows here, for example, than they find in the whole of the northwest or the north. Where do you ever see cows roaming down the streets? They are not here. You go to Douala there, you find cows roaming down the street. They say they're coming from Garwa. These cows have done all journeys down the coast to be killed and eaten. No inspection, nothing. So, again, the only thing you can do is, as far as possible, to preserve yourself by being careful. Be watchful. When you see something suspicious like that, don't buy. It's Linda's job by making a report. Okay, I'm making a report to who? And what will be the outcome of the report? Investigations are continuing. That meat which is preserved like that will be sold in the next 48 hours. So I'm making a report to who? By the time they even carry any investigation, if they do carry one, which I don't know if they ever carry one, I've not seen anybody brought to court for selling adulterated meat or any other food stuff which is adulterated. They don't do it. If they are caught, they give money, buy their way through, and go on, and life moves on. And so, again, this is Ambazonia. If you can all recall our life before 1961, what sanitary inspectors, what those people who inspected livestock before they were killed, what people who inspected where the things were being sold to be sure that insects, germs have not infested the whole area. All those things are gone, together with the whole state and the system that we had in place. And so that's what it is. I think that's one of the reasons why we fight. We try to save what is left. We recover what we can, and then build from there. But overall, it's a health system that has collapsed. Again, buying meat tainted with formalin or whatever they call it. Go to a hospital, you don't even have a bandage. There's nothing to treat you with. If there's any dispensary anywhere. And so that is what we should fight. I will advise Ambazonians, wherever they are in that country, to be very careful, to be observant. It's better to eat vegetable and harvested from your backyard than to go buy that thing. Over to you.
Thank you, Barrister Mbeseha. Well, indeed, this is why Ambazonians continue to fight. But then now, despite the inauguration of Bamenda Gas Plant months back, residents are yet to feel the impact of the project, as the price of a 12 kg cylinder of domestic gas remains high, selling at 8,500 francs CFAs. Now, this is contrary to expectations that the plant's launch would bring relief to consumers. The general manager of the Hydrocarbons Price Stabilization Fund, Oki Johnson, had announced the price reduction to 6,500 CFAs for a 12.5 kg gas cylinder. However, it appears that this new price has not been uniformly applied, with some sellers in Bamenda continuing to charge exorbitant prices. Moreover, the promise of job creations, touted as one of the benefits of the project, remains unfulfilled. About 1,000 jobs were promised to the workforce, raising hopes and expectations. However, months after the inauguration, these jobs have yet to materialize, leaving many feeling frustrated and disillusioned. The Bamenda Gas Plant was expected to be a game changer for the zone, increasing supply efficiency, stabilizing prices, and creating employment opportunities. While the project has been hailed as a major milestone, the reality on the ground suggests that the colonial government still has a long way to go in matching their words with actions. As residents continue to grapple with high gas prices and unemployment, questions are being raised about the effectiveness of the colonial government's policies and the impact of the plant on the local economy. Now, will the colonial government take concrete steps to ensure that the benefits of the plant are felt by the people? Or will the project remain a promise unfulfilled? Well, at this point, every bona fide Ambazonian knows what the tale is. And it is a sad yes. The people of Bamenda are watching with keen interest, expecting the colonial government to deliver on its promises and bring relief to those struggling with high energy costs and unemployment. The ball is in the colonial government's court, and it remains to be seen whether they will rise to the challenge of making the Bamenda Gas Plant a reality for all. Well, Barrister Mbeseha, this is one of many unfulfilled promises, and I don't think at this point it should be shocking to Ambazonians. And when we're talking of unfulfilled promises, let's take a look at this recent postponement of yet another very viable part of Ambazonia, the recent postponement of the commissioning of the Victoria Deep Sea Port, which has sparked widespread concerns amongst Ambazonians who are increasingly questioning the colonial government's commitment to developing infrastructure in Ambazonia. The port, which is expected to be a game changer for the local economy, it has been a highly anticipated project, and its delay has left many wondering about the colonial government's priorities and plans for Ambazonia. Meanwhile, the République government has been actively investing in seaports in other parts of its own country, commissioning major projects in towns like its Douala and its Kribi, all French-speaking towns of La République. Now, this development has raised eyebrows, with many pointing to a perceived disparity in the allocation of resources between Ambazonians and La République. The Victoria Deep Sea Port, the lone port in the Anglophone part of the country, is only a stark example of the region's infrastructure challenges. Ambazonia seems to have no infrastructure, or too dilapidated to even call infrastructure. Despite its strategic importance, the seaport, Victoria's Deep Sea Port, has been in a state of disrepair for years, hindering its ability to facilitate trade and economic growth. The lack of investment in the port's rehabilitation has resulted in a significant loss of economic opportunities for Ambazonians. The postponement of the Victoria Deep Sea Port commissioning has led credence to the claims of marginalization made by many Ambazonians, which is actually obvious at this point. It appears that the drummers of the song of marginalization have yet again been proven to be correct, and the facts on the ground support this claim. Ambazonia is lagging behind in terms of infrastructural development, and it is imperative that the colonial government takes concrete steps to address this disparity. But the question is, will the colonial government indeed take any concrete step in that regard? As the colonial government deliberates on the future of seaports, will Victoria Deep Sea Port come into the question? Will it be in the picture? Well, Ambazonians can only guess what the patterns have been given them as an answer, which is a sad no. Barrister Mbeseha, now we see a pattern here, and it is not new, sadly. We see from the gas plant in Bamenda to the deep sea port in Victoria, neglect and abandonment by the colonial regime is vivid and clear. Now, does La République have the right to say, because Ambazonia claims to not be a part of it, they cannot and should not involve themselves in developing Ambazonian infrastructure when they still reap from Ambazonia's natural resources?
No, let me answer your question. Let me go do analysis on your question. See, we believe, I'm saying we're right, that La République du Cameroon, they are colonizers. They are the colonial masters. So they are occupying the territory as colonizers. But colonialism did not start today. The French colonized them. The British colonized Nigeria. And during the colonization, they collect taxes. It is also the responsibility of the colonial master to develop the area that they are colonizing, to build schools. That is fully their responsibility. To dig roads, to do infrastructure development. So there's no excuse that because Ambazonians are fighting to get out of it, they will not do it. It's their responsibility to provide the police because you don't colonize people for nothing. People are paying taxes. You're getting money from them. So it's your responsibility to do the development, not a question of choice. That said, we can then go back to the issue. You see, we made a big mistake. They were not inaugurating anything. They inaugurated nothing. Even from the Bamenda Gas, whatever thing they call it, to the Kumba gas, because the gas thing came off Kumba Bamenda. They were inaugurating nothing. In Kumba, they purported to lay a foundation stone. You don't inaugurate a foundation stone for a project. A project is inaugurated when it is completely done. You inaugurate it to function. And so that said, I had said here many times before about this so-called gas plant. All that thing is a scheme to lie. It's not even marginalization. No, it's a fraudulent scheme to lie to people during election time. Were they launching a firewood plant, a charcoal plant, or a gas plant? I've asked this question many times before. How many women in Bamenda town actually use that gas? Similarly, how many women use gas in Kumba? If the town is like Bamenda, if it's 1 million or 2 million people who live there, less than 500 people use gas. So it was a ploy to deceive the public for election purposes, selection campaign thing. They did not intend to build any gas plant. They would not build any one. And so they could not inaugurate what they were not going to execute. As we speak, I doubt if there's even anything there. Talk less of their employing 1,000 people, or even 500, even 10 people. There's nothing there. They can bring some gas and put some bottles there, bring 20 people from Bona, 5 from Bafut and put there and call them a gas plant. That thing will disappear after the elections. That's what it is. And so we always make the mistake. They were inaugurating nothing. Let us fast forward to the so-called the Victoria Deep Sea Port. They were not inaugurating anything called the Deep Sea Port. What they wrote down, which I read, that created something they call an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding. Cutting some of their friends together and say, okay, we're going to enter into some deal with the government. An understanding on how to build a deep sea port or how to manage it. I don't see how you do a memorandum of understanding in the construction of a seaport. A seaport like Sonora, like other things, they are very big, giant projects. You can only do an MOU, memorandum of understanding, to manage it. There are different partners that will manage it, not for the construction. They have never desired to construct anything called deep sea port in Limbe. Never. They use that language. The deep sea port is a language they use. Just like they talk about the ring road. The ring road project was never conceived by Yaoundé. It was conceived by the French government. And so it has been there. Every time they come, they know that's the thing that they will sell to the whole northern zone. They say the ring road, the ring road. They will not construct it. But whenever their project, the deep sea port thing did not come out of Yaoundé. The deep sea port project was there before they started colonizing us. They have never intended to build any deep sea port there. They've been lying all along. And so, over the years, they have brought things there to deceive people. There's something they brought there in the pretext that they're trying to build a deep sea port. They call it Chantier Naval. Chantier Naval was a ship repairing place where they would repair ships that anchor and have problems, which was by itself a fraudulent project. I went there. I went to Limbe when I saw that thing. They were building nothing. They appointed Franjinda to be managing that project. Franjinda lived in Douala. He never even lived in Limbe. After the thing expired, they took for and sent it to jail. He's in jail as we speak. So they have never intended ever to be a deep sea port in Limbe. And so what you see they are talking about memorandum of understanding, which I think people do not even understand. They even signed a memorandum of understanding. A seaport is not built on the memorandum of understanding. It involves a lot of money. They build different terminals that would accommodate different type of ships. It's a capital investment. They don't start by a memorandum of understanding. Memorandums of understanding are meant for the management when the thing is over. In other words, you manage this terminal, and then if the process comes from there, I will get 20%, you will get 30%, the other guy will get 5%. That is what the memorandum of understanding. So you don't do memorandums of understanding to build airports, or to build seaports, or to build major highways. Like somebody come to there where we came to sign a memorandum of understanding to dig the Bamenda Ring Road. It's a lie. Those are all political ploys that they are using to deceive us. It's outright deceit. It's not even marginalization. It's just outright lying. Criminal deceit. And so, again, there is nothing like Bamenda Gas Plant that is not working. They never intended it ever to work. It was political language. There's nothing like Kumba. I asked the question many times before. Why is it that these gas plants were so important in Ambazonia? They laid the foundation for one in Kumba. 2 weeks after, they laid another one for Bamenda. And I asked, where's the gas plant from Bunda? Where's the on? Oh, they don't use gas there. Where's the gas plants for Bafusam and other places? So it was just election time. They crave out these things and said that they're putting a gas plant just to buy votes. It's just the same thing that you find now. I've said it many times. You find, and if you go to Ring Road, you probably see some bulldozers standing there. Oh, we're doing the Ring Road. Why? Because elections are coming in 2 months. And that will be over. But unfortunately, these ones, again, they started to lie too early. There's no gas plant in Bamenda. There's no gas plant in Kumba. There's no plan to build a deep sea port in Jumbe. Even their memorandum of understanding collapsed by itself. They could not even launch it. Even they would have found some of our brothers and sisters back where people dancing in the Arapa, celebrating a port that was never going to come. I don't know why they do that. They ask, they want a deep sea port. What would they get out of it? Yes, they got Sonora. What did they get out of it before they killed it? I've asked the question, how many Bakari boys worked in the Sonora? Even just as cleaners? Nothing. And so these are liars. These are people who are just criminally lying to people for political reasons. And so whoever believes in them, do so at your own risk. I think those of us who are old enough understand when they lie, and they've always lied. Or understand when they deceive people, and they've always deceived people. So we don't need their deep sea port. We'll be one, well, okay. We don't need their gas plants. We'll put them where we need them at the appropriate time. And so I just guess the people in Bamenda, in Kuma, and everywhere in Ambazonia have realized by themselves that this is all deceit. But the very sad thing about it is they don't lie this, they don't do these things alone. They do this with the complicity of their own brothers and sisters who come from Yaoundé in big vehicles, drive around, drink, invite you to come and dance, at the end of which they will give you a tin of sardine and a loaf of bread, and perhaps a free sikam wrapper with the effigy of President Paul Biya there, with a symbol of fire, that is symbol for CPDM elections. Sad, sad, sad. Over to you.
Thank you, Barrister Mbeseha. It indeed is sad and really sad. But then the anger over the unjust rejection of opposition leader Maurice Kamto's presidential candidacy has erupted beyond neighboring La République's border. So when we see La République carrying more than what we've described as marginalization, its own people are certainly unhappy with the kind of leadership that they have over there. The diaspora is mobilizing in Brussels. The protest is a direct challenge to the corrupt ruling regime. The growing national discontent is evident, and to critics, and now bridges the so-called Cameroon crisis. That's an obvious display of what that protest was like. It wasn't funny or friendly at all. Several videos circulated online captured the raw emotions of La République citizens in Belgium, with similar events feared to unfold in France. Today, August 5th, protesters in Brussels gathered in front of La République's embassy to condemn the Constitutional Council's decision on the rejection of the greatly feared Maurice Kamto's presidential candidacy. This mobilization, which led to threats against diplomatic property, follows a prior government warning for heightened security due to threats from factions like the Bass and Code. The anger on display is a culmination of years of frustration with their government's handling of the Ambazonian war serving as a major flashpoint. The exclusion of Kamto is viewed by many as another deliberate move by the long-serving incompetent regime to suppress dissent and maintain power. Clearly, this opposition is no longer confined to Ambazonians. Many La République citizens who have long endured the same economic hardship and political repression are now also vocal in their demand for change. With widespread discontent is now crossing the country's linguistic lines. Citizens are uniting against a dictatorship that still refuses to let go of power after over 4 decades. While the rejection of Maurice Kamto has made many La République citizens feel the same political repression that Ambazonians have endured for years, even if it's coming from 2 different angles, but then their elites are now forging, La République's elites are now forging a new solidarity to realize their fight for justice is a national one against a common foe. And this act here shows a lot of emotion. Barrister Mbeseha, we'll just leave the floor to you, taking a look at what is happening here and looking at the fact that we've seen 82 presidential candidacies. We've seen what they all look like. But somehow, for La République, who wanted Kamto to be there, he's not there. He's not there in the candidacy. And this is their outburst overseas. And there's a fear that it might even extend to France. Looking at the whole picture, I would like to get your perspective on it.
It's 2 days ago, was it 2 days or sometime late last week? I made this statement right here. What we have in Yaoundé is a dictatorship. You don't fight a dictatorship through the ballot box. There's a reason why people are dictators. They are not dictators for nothing. There's a big pride, there's a big benefit for being a dictator. Those who are dictators are not prepared to give up those benefits as simple as you think. It's dictator that has kept them alive, and they are prepared to give up their lives to preserve that dictatorship. And so what you see, the picture you share there, I've said many times before, that République du Cameroon, they have the government they deserve. If they want change, they will make change. But their change, if they want to get it, will not come through the streets of Brussels, through the streets of Paris, through the streets of Washington demonstrating there. That will bring them nothing. Yeah, when they know that game better than them, their independence or their democracy will come. They come to rule them. When they have learned, anytime they learn, to say we'll pay the ultimate price. Not in Switzerland, not in Brussels, not in Paris. They will pay the ultimate price in Bafoussam, in Douala, in Yaoundé, in the all major cities. They've forgotten. Maybe they can learn something from us. They themselves know that they have killed more than 65,000 Ambazonians. Outright killing for demanding just the freedom to say what we wanted to say. And so, 9 years into it, Yaoundé has come to understand that you can kill 60 more thousand, you can even kill 1 million. That spirit will remain with Ambazonia. And so you find that even they have almost stopped killing, because they realize that killing is not going to help. But until the people of Cameroon are prepared to pay the ultimate price, they will never get anything called democracy. They will never get anything called democracy. How will you get democracy? You can only get democracy where you are prepared to pay the sacrifice. They built the dictatorship did not come by accident. They built it over the years. The monster is eating them up. And to resist the monster, you have to become a monster yourself. We don't want people to die. But somebody will be willing to die to pay the ultimate price for the freedom they don't want to get. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Show me pictures. The thing was, it's almost night, 9 p.m. Cameroon time. And what are they doing? The results of the Constitutional Court, it was read around 3 p.m., 6 hours ago. Is it enough for 20 boys to go down the street and throw stones? Is that how you think we get it? No. They will kill you. They know they're prepared for that. That's why they have, if the story is true, the streets of Douala, the streets of Yaoundé are full of military men, of cars, armored cars standing there. And so if you fear armored cars, you will not get freedom. They're like Ambazonians who have feared those things will not be where we are. We braced it, we confronted the enemy head on. We lost lives, but they too did not go scot-free. And so there's nothing called democracy in Cameroon. If you see what those demonstrations are doing there in Paris or wherever, if they demonstrate abroad, why are they going to demonstrate in the Cameroon embassy therefore? Cameroon is not ruled from the embassy of Cameroon in Paris. They should go to the Élysée Palace because that's where the instructions come from, to Yaoundé. That's what Cameroon is. In fact, the head of government in Cameroon is at the Élysée. If they have to demonstrate in Brussels, that's Belgium or some other countries, let them go to the French embassy there because that's where their problem is. Going to target a poor guy in the embassy called Cameroon Embassy in Brussels or in Paris, which man who probably have not even seen a salary for 3 months because they don't pay them all the time. What would that change? You can kill all the ambassadors. That will not dislodge their money from where they are. Will not do them anything. And so they have to strategize. If they want independence, which have not got, they will get the independence. If they want democracy, they will get it. But there's a price that you have to pay for those things. Independence does not come from nothing. Democracy is not a free gift. It's not free right. You have to pay the price for it. I don't imagine any dictatorship in the world that's collapsed by itself. No, people bring those things down at the expense of their own lives, at the expense of their limbs and their whatever thing they sacrifice. And so, if they take the cure from Amazonia, maybe they will win. We're not yet finished. But all of us agree, and they also agree, seeing what has gone on for the past 8 years, that Amazonia cannot be defeated like that with arms. So, democracy is not going to be defeated. Dictatorship is not going to be defeated by discussions on the table. Which is what they are not going to do. What they have Escalate come to. Let come to go and rest, because his policy has been changed through the ballot box. That's his announcement. We will change, but through the ballot box. If the rules of the ballot box, whether truncated or straight, have eliminated you, so be it. So there's no change from dictatorship to democracy through the ballot box. It never works. It has never worked anywhere in the world. It has never worked anywhere in the world. And so I feel sorry for them, but again, they have the government they deserve. If they want change, they will fight for it. And fighting for it means fighting to the end. The end is not but what you call the end is not when you get the success. No. The end is that you fight alone and die. You prepare to sacrifice yourself. If you're lucky to survive, fine. But they will kill people. They will kill 10, they will kill 50, they will kill 100. They have killed thousands of Anglophones, they call them. And then they will soon realize that you cannot kill the whole population of 30 million people. You will stop, and democracy will come through that way. Talking, demonstrating is not the solution. Over to you.
First, Mbeseha, well, like you said, while Ambazonia is already making its sacrifices to reclaim its sovereignty from La République, the citizens of La République would have to start preparing to make their own sacrifice to liberate themselves from the regime they currently have. Barrister Mbeseha, it's been a pleasure having you on the show with us tonight, but that's it on Undaunted, which you would have to continue with the rest of the news on the African and global scene. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up next is news around Africa. A shock and outrage have gripped Chad following the gruesome murder of Fulbert Monoji, a senior civil servant and former chief of staff to the governor of Enedi, Monoji. He was found dead early Saturday morning in the city of Abeche in eastern Chad, just hours after he posted a chilling message on Facebook that read, "In danger, friends." Now, his lifeless, undressed body was discovered on the outskirts of the city, burned beyond recognition. According to eyewitnesses and early forensic report, he had been doused in gasoline and satellite. Images of his charred remains quickly spread across social media, sparking a wave of national grief, speculation, and public anger. Well, we'll see on Friday evening, Fulbert Monoji posted a brief but ominous message on his Facebook profile saying, quote, "In danger, friends," end quote. He wrote this with no further context. The post, which drew concern from some of his followers, turned prophetic within hours. Local residents reported hearing cries near an open field around midnight, but by the time authorities were alerted, the body was already burning. Police and emergency responders cordoned off the scene, but no suspects were found nearby. The identity of the victim was later confirmed by family members and colleagues. Well, we wonder, who is Fulbert Monoji? We see Fulbert Monoji is believed to be in his early 40s and has served as chief of staff to the governor of Enedi, a region in the northeastern part of Chad that borders Sudan. He was widely regarded as a competent and respected public servant, known for his administrative skills and his advocacy for better governance in the region. In recent months, according to sources close to Monoji, he had grown increasingly concerned about corruption, abuse of power, and growing insecurity in the region. While it remains unclear whether these issues were directly linked to his death, some suspect that Monoji may have been silenced for what he knew or what he was about to reveal. He was principled, courageous, and outspoken. He believed in transparency, said a colleague who asked not to be named due to fear of reprisal. "We believe he was targeted," said this colleague. The brutal nature of the murder and the ominous warning posted on social media have drawn widespread condemnation from civil society groups, human rights organizations, and opposition politicians. The state must immediately and transparently investigate this heinous act, said Muhammad Yahya, a prominent human rights advocate based in N'Djamena. "We are witnessing a troubling rise in violence against civil servants, journalists, and activists. This cannot continue," she said. Well, opposition leader Najo Kaina issued a statement on Saturday evening calling the killing barbaric and warning of a climate of fear descending on Chad. How can a man warn the public that his life is in danger and then be found burned alive the very next day? Kaina asked this question: what more evidence do we need that people in this country are not safe even from their own government? Online, the hashtag Justice for Fulbert began trending on Chadian social media platforms, with thousands calling for accountability and answers. Some users compared his death to previous incidents involving whistleblowers and critics of the government who have disappeared under suspicious circumstances. As of Monday morning, there has been no official statement from the Chadian central government or the office of the governor of Enedi. Now, police in Abeche have opened an investigation according to local sources, but no suspects have been arrested and no motive has been publicly confirmed. Well, a police officer speaking on condition of anonymity said investigators were exploring multiple leads, including the possibility of a politically motivated assassination or an internal dispute. They say, we're not ruling anything out. The officer said, this is a highly sensitive case. The pressure is intense. Indeed it is. Mojani's death adds to a growing list of attacks against civil servants, journalists, and activists in Chad. We see that a country that has seen political unrest, military crackdowns, and power struggles in recent years, this brings a lot to question. Now, since the death of President Idris Deby in 2021 and the rise of his son, Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, as transitional president, the country has been navigating a fragile political transition marred by protests, allegations of repression, and deteriorating security in several regions. Now, we're seeing more and more signs that dissent is being crushed, said a regional analyst based in Dhaka. If someone like Fulbert Monoji, who served at the heart of government, can be killed in this way, it sends a terrifying message to others. As the nation mourns, Fulbert Monoji's family is demanding justice. In a statement released Sunday, they expressed heartbreak and called on national and international authorities to ensure a thorough and independent investigation. He was a father, a husband, a public servant. He did not deserve this fate, said a family member. The funeral has not yet been scheduled as an autopsy is still pending. In the meantime, citizens across Chad continue to demand answers, fearing that without accountability, Fulbert's death may be added to a growing list of unresolved political killings. Justice delayed, one activist wrote on Twitter, on now X, is justice denied. We will not forget Fulbert Monoji. That is a sad one on the African scene, but coming up next will be news across the globe. Russia has officially withdrawn from its long-standing moratorium on the deployment of short and medium-range nuclear missiles, citing what it describes as NATO's anti-Russian policy. The decision marks a significant escalation in already strained relations between Moscow and the West. The announcement came from Russia's foreign ministry earlier this week, signaling the country will no longer abide by the terms of the defunct Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces INF Treaty. Although the United States formally exited the Cold War era arms control agreement in 2019, Russia had maintained a unilateral commitment to refrain from deploying such weapons until now. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council and former president, directly blamed NATO for the shift. The Russian Foreign Ministry statement on the withdrawal of the moratorium on the deployment of medium and short-range missiles is the result of NATO countries' anti-Russian policy. Medvedev posted on X, formerly Twitter, on Sunday. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov had previously signaled that Moscow was reconsidering the moratorium. In December, Lavrov accused Western nations of destabilizing actions that he argued made continued restraint untenable. In INF treaty signed in 1987 between the United States and the Soviet Union, banned ground-launched ballistics and cruise missiles with range between 500 and 5,500 kilometers. Analysts now warn that the end of Russia's self-imposed limit could lead to a new arms race in Europe. NATO has yet to issue an official response to Russia's latest move, but alliance members have repeatedly expressed concerns over what they see as aggressive military posturing by the Kremlin. And that is it on the global news. We'll take a look at the recap on Undaunted tonight. On Undaunted tonight, we brought to you Ambazonian war, Putin, public health at risk amidst colonial government neglect, Bamenda Gas Plant failing to deliver a 12 kg cylinder of domestic gas, selling high at 8,500 instead of the 6,500 promised, and a marginalization concern escalating as the Victoria Deep Sea Port commissioning is postponed. La République Diaspora protests in Brussels amid La République's election chaos, and the fear of that happening across other diaspora, especially France, seems to be on the rise. And on the African scene, we saw Chadian civil servant burnt alive after Facebook warning, "I'm in danger, friends." And on the global report, we saw Russia ending its missile deployment moratorium and blaming NATO for the escalation. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted, we say thank you for tuning in. We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.